So, good evening, everyone. I'm expecting there will be a couple of people joining, but let's get going. So, my name's Chris Whitaker. I'm the program manager for the Young Leaders in Cricket program. I'm going to talk a little bit tonight about the program itself and why it's important, why we set it up, and give you some more understanding of exactly what's contained in the program. So these are predominantly the words you'll hear a lot of. We'll talk about life skills. We'll talk about the leadership skills and how we've packaged that up into a volunteering program. So when we originally conceived of the program, it was a group of us, it was three of us 16 years ago, that were looking around at how we got young people involved with volunteering and thinking of ways to try and engage with them. So we did actually go out and speak to a group of volunteers to kind of understand why it was that they weren't sort of willingly putting themselves forward. And generally, the conversation that came back to us was they wanted the skills to be able to do it, and they wanted to know that there were roles for them to take on. It kind of changed a lot because back in the day, you kind of just went forward and volunteered and did whatever there was. But clearly there was a desire to actually feel confident enough to be volunteering. So that got us thinking about how we put the program together. And really, within the game of cricket, there are all these leadership and life skills. They sit there as part of coaching, as part of officiating, groundskeeping, everything that's kind of the day-to-day activity at any given club, all have life skills and various leadership skills embedded in them. So we looked around at that, and to kind of preface this whole thing, I was keen to kind of look around and look for an individual who I thought embodied a lot of the sort of leadership skills that I felt there were in cricket. And Virat Kohli was somebody I'd admired as a player very much, and as a skipper. And when you're captaining a team like India, if you think the England captain's under the sort of scrutiny and pressure, then this is on completely another level. And he's always handled it in a really good way. He wears his heart on his sleeve, and that's the way he plays. But he plays within the spirit of cricket, which is something that cricket, unlike any other sport, has actually written into the laws of the game. And I saw him being interviewed, and he talked about this, and he said, for me, leadership's a lifestyle. It's something where I live my values every day, and I make that commitment to them, and I therefore lead by example. So the values I'm demonstrating are ones that I would expect other people to, and if I'm leading a team, then I'll put those values out there, and my teammates will see that I live them myself. And he talked about being you can be a smart captain and a great tactician, which he was, but leadership is way more than that. It's about learning from the examples of others, being humble enough to do that, and taking those learnings and then putting them into the way that you captain. And he said, it's not about being a dictator. And when you look around the world at the moment, you think there are some leaders who might take that to heart. It's about where you stand and what you expect from others, and then that helps you create the kind of environment that people want to follow you and want to take on the roles that you want them to play. And then looking at the kind of life skills side of it, well, again, cricket has these all embedded in there. So resilience is one that leaps out, and clearly in any sport, there's a certain amount of resilience required, but particularly in cricket, it's an unusual sport because you play as a team, but you also play as an individual. And I've thought long and hard about this. And the only other sport I can think that actually comes close to it is possibly a baseball where you as an individual can make a huge difference and in fact can win a game, and even less so in baseball. But in cricket, as a bowler or a batter, you can actually win a game on your own. If you make a massive score as a batter, you're probably going to put it out of the reach of the other team. Or if you're a bowler and you're taking, hat tricks and fifers and etc., you're going to again largely win the game on your own. But you do need to play within that team environment. And, often they're teams that are a greater sum of their parts. They've got players that are good at lots of things, and they win in that manner. So the other areas specifically that are the life skills we're talking about, they're kind of embedded in the game. Things like building relationships, because you're playing over a number of hours, you need to have those relationships. And the best teams are ones where there's a great relationship between the players, and they all understand each other's roles, what they bring, and then go forward to kind of both enjoy what they're doing, but also succeed. So those are all the kind of, I suppose, the ones that jumped out. And then the obvious ones are like the fairness, and cricket has, like I said, it's got the laws of the game embedded in its actual the rules or the laws that govern it. Play hard, play fair. That's very much embedded in it. And that's these are all skills you can transfer into whatever role you go on into in life, whether that's into higher education or vocational training, or even like straight into the job market. If you can coach somebody and you can communicate with somebody, and you've built, you've got the resilience to be able to come back from this, and you're committed to what you're doing, you'll succeed in life 9 times out of 10. So taking these life skills out of what you learn on the program, obviously, but we're just highlighting what's already there in the game. The other thing we were very keen on was that we would reflect the values. The program reflected the values of the game. And when the ECB published, so this is the governing body publishing what they think cricket's core values should be. And I wanted to look at them and see, did we fit into this particular thoughts about what core values were, and we very much did. We certainly run the program entirely on respect, and the enjoyment side of it is hugely important to us, because we that's the way you learn. You learn by enjoying it, and what better way than to learn from something you love, which is playing cricket, and the sense of belonging, and that's really important in an environment. In a volunteering environment, in particular, it's a community. Okay, the people who have that within themselves to want to volunteer and to give something back, if you like. It's a community and on its own, as it were. And this gives you that sense of belonging to that community by being trained up as a volunteer, someone who can step in when needed, or actually putting yourself forward to get involved. And the purpose part of it is the way that we've designed the modules, and the way that the program sort of progresses over the time period we deliver it. So the purpose always was to, as I say, give the age group, and the age group that we particularly wanted to concentrate on were that sort of 13 to 17-year-olds, and give them the competency, if you like, so that they could not only volunteer in their clubs, which clearly is the role that we wanted to play, but also in their schools and in the wider community. And what we'd hope is that they'd take away the ethos of volunteering and apply it in other walks of life. So we wanted to create a program that was kind of specialized in that area, and make it as high quality as we could. And I've got to say, we were all volunteers doing this. So it was all of our own kind of our own thoughts and ability to pull things together. And the other part of this was trying to retain young people, and certainly of that age group, in the game, and to find ways to do that. And like I said, the great thing is about creating, within cricket clubs. And again, this is something that cricket very much is good at, is creating that community feeling. When you join a club, it's for a bigger purpose than just playing cricket. It's also about developing friendship groups, and of course that's really important, and even more so in these particular times when there's so many other distractions for young people not to participate in activities where you're playing with lots of other people. So it plays a really important role, and part of the volunteering is part of getting involved in club life and broadening those friendship groups. So that's we felt was an important part to play. The other bit was, and this struck us again, but this is 16 years ago when we started it, that the game was very much, and certainly the demographics of the people who were volunteering were pretty much drawn from one group, which was old white men, of which I was one of them, and it was clear that, and thank heavens, the game broadened in terms of its reach into lots of different communities, different ethnic communities. It kind of woke up and realized, gosh, a quarter of our game is played by people from lots of different ethnic communities to the one that's currently playing it. So that kind of realization came, and it was important then to try and embrace that broader base of volunteers, because and the same when the female game, girls started to come into the game. It basically saved the game. Without putting too fine a point on it, it's essentially cricket was dying, and it's taken the last 20 years for it to recover, and as a recreational sport. The professional game, sure, that'll always run in whatever format, but the recreational game is kind of where most of us play. The majority of people play the game, and if you want administrators for the future, you've got to be developing them at this kind of age group. So that was hugely important to us, and the program has kind of reflected that in terms of the numbers and the percentages. So we would like to think we've contributed something towards that. The final thing was we wanted to make it sustainable, and I'll talk a bit more about how we did that a bit later. So this is the program. This is the nub of it, and it's essentially 4 modules, 4 face-to-face modules, and 3 online ones. So it runs over the course of the summer, and we put on the training at different times, which I'll show you. And it's all about the self-development and the learning of transferable skills. And all the tutors, that's the way they tutor the modules, with that in mind. And as I said, it takes the values and the leadership and life skills and all those characteristics which are in the game, and we put them into the modules. As I said, it's about then going and joining an environment, a caring environment, because volunteers are by nature caring people, and also demonstrate how invaluable it is, because community clubs can't run without volunteers. They can't exist. So we're all like really important to the continuation of the recreational game. The online learning bit, so the 3 of the modules are online, and I'll talk a bit about them, and then we try and offer other kind of interesting topics, which are obviously discretionary, and that they're just there for additional information if the young leaders want them. We look at things that sit around the game, the environment being one important area, but also looking at the business of cricket and the way that clubs operate and that kind of thing. As I say, those are just additional ones that we have on there. I've talked about the group of it's a group of volunteers who manage it, and then there's some paid sort of part-time people who help us out with like the delivery and other bits of the program. So, what training do you receive? Well, like I said, these 6 modules, 7, sorry, in total, and the face-to-face ones are about 2.5, 3 hours each, and we deliver them. I'll show you the kind of formats that we deliver them in, and the online ones are run as workshops. They are the one is about mental resilience, and it's very much around kind of helping with coping strategies, which are both important in a sporting environment and in life, as we know. And the tutors they come from a background of cricket, but they're all trained in delivering these kinds of modules from a professional point of view. So it's a nice mixture, and they are all so that they all have played the game and understand it. So I've sat in a few of the modules. They are very good. They're probably one of the favorite modules in terms of the online ones. Then we do a fundraising, a how-to fundraise, and I'll explain why that's important again when I talk about how we've made the program sustainable. And then the last one is around safeguarding, which we've just introduced this year because the time felt right, and it sits in quite nicely with the coaching and the officiating side. So that's a slightly shorter one. Again, they're all interactive workshops. So hopefully what we're aiming at is to try and get the young people to engage, to talk about these slightly different subjects. The dates, always the important thing. So we're going to deliver in the Easter holidays. We deliver always the 2 weeks of the Easter holidays. So we repeat the modules in each week. And what we do is we bundle up first aid, the young activator, and the young cricket official, or young officials for cricket modules together into a 1-day training session. So it's a full day, sort of 9 to 5 type of training session. And so we do that in week 1, and we repeat it again in week 2. And then the May half term, we do the same thing again, but we add groundskeeping as a separate module, because that's weather dependent. Clearly, in April you've got no chance, and particularly this year with Easter being so early, given the kind of weather that's been happening over the last, however long it is now, 40 days of continuous rain. We're going to be being able to get nowhere near a square. So the idea is the May will be when we deliver those, and we'll do those as an event rather than a kind of face-to-face session as such. So we'll have a venue. There'll be groundskeeper there. We try and align it with a game, so that there's actual sort of real life situations for the young people to have a look at. And we've also put environmental awareness into this. So we talk about the impact of the game on the environment and how the game itself can contribute towards improving the environment. So really important, because clearly cricket does have an impact on the game itself. On the environment. And then in the summer holidays, we do mop-up sessions. So depending on kind of who's still needing to do what, we organize additional modules in the first 2 weeks of the summer holiday. So hopefully that's 5 different opportunities to go on to get onto a module, and to cover all the modules. So lots of different opportunities to do. Quick scan through these. So the activator one, and this is where you get to kind of understand where the life skills and the leadership skills come from. So the activator is basically about coaching and about supporting a lead coach to help run sessions. So picture Sunday mornings, 150 5 to 8 year olds running around, and maybe some slightly older ones too, running around, on the outfield, and they're being coached in groups, and those groups require support coaches, and the support coaches would be the young leaders. So they're playing a huge role in kind of helping develop both the club itself, but also the wider game, because these are going to be young children coming in for the first time, often. It'd be their first organized training session, and having a young 14, 15-year-olds, as part of that session, running it, makes it far more identifiable for them about, somebody who's kind of closer to their age, and that's how you get young children enthused in coming into the game and staying in the game, their first positive experience. So young leaders have a huge role to play there, and we give them the what to and the how to. So the what to is clearly the sort of technical side. Okay, we're not talking about front foot drives and back foot defenses and that kind of stuff. It's about basically how to hit a ball and how to bowl a ball and how to catch a ball. And then the how to bit, which is the really important bit, because that's the communications side. It's about how you can demonstrate, how you manage the group. So all those skills are really embedded in that bit. And the really important bits of this are keeping it safe, and then making sure that it's as inclusive as possible. So in order to be able to do that, you need to be well organized. You need to be able to turn up with an idea in your head of what you're going to be doing. And this is all what you'll get taught on the modules. The next module is the young cricket officials. And this is all about helping to run games and officiate at them. We call it officiating here rather than umpiring, because it's basically running the sorts of formats of junior cricket, which are continuous cricket, pairs cricket, clock cricket. There are any number of different formats of the game, all of which I'm sure you as a youngster or your son or daughter would have played. So it's helping to run those sessions, making sure they're properly managed, properly scored, properly designed. And then there's a basic bit of an umpiring course which we do as well, and that's to give you enough skill to be able to probably run a kind of traditional junior game, but the sort of under 10, under 11 standard. And then the scoring side, which is clearly important, and learning how to score electronically, which how most scoring is done today. So it's a good first step, if you like, into the officiating world. This is a huge life societal skill, if you like, in terms of life skills. Being trained up to, react positively, if you like, if there is an incident, it is really, really important. And the more people who have first aid awareness out there in wider society is clearly a good thing. So this is that first introduction to first aid. We call it a first aid awareness, but it gives you some basic skills to be able to manage a situation, and more importantly, be able to not get kind of discombobulated by it, but to be able to behave in a kind of a positive way and make sure that the whoever the incidents and wherever the incidents occurred, is you can cope with it. So again, a really positive thing and something to build your confidence. The groundskeeping, but this is to give an understanding to how important the surfaces that we play on are and what it takes to prepare them and the effect that that has on the environment. It affects it in a number of ways, less so thankfully, because lots of the kind of very intrusive methods that we used, and that's mostly around chemicals and growth agents and various things, have either been banned or things have moved on, progressed, and there've been a lot more sort of bio type growth agents that have come in, fertilizers that don't rely on chemicals. So it's that, but it's also understanding how we as a game can contribute positively to it, and we can, because we're very fortunate. We play in big open spaces, and most of us have a lot of biodiversity that's either we can encourage and improve and change and add to, as well as other areas that, within the way that we manage our sites and our facilities in a kind of environmentally friendly way. So it's a discussion about that and giving you as a young person tactics for being able to open discussions about it, basically at the club, but giving you a little bit of understanding about where we sit as a sport. Okay, and then I just want to point out all these have pathways into, if you get hooked by any of them, the officiating or the groundskeeping or the coaching side of it, or indeed the scoring, there are pathways that are offered to the next step. Okay, and so this is a very nice grounding for you. So this is like the first introduction to coaching, the first introduction to officiating. Gives you enough knowledge to be able to deliver. But if you want to go further, there are pathways, and there are a lot of good reasons why you might want to go onto these pathways, because there are a lot of more paid opportunities, and I'm talking about the kind of paid opportunities for the holidays, where you might be able to run coach at festivals or officiate at festivals, those kinds of things. Those are often good, handy little paid opportunities. So if you're in higher education at uni or somewhere, that you'll have a chance to be able to earn a bit of pocket money. And certainly these days, most students would love to have a source of income that wasn't just working in retail or doing something that they weren't necessarily outdoors and enjoying themselves being able to do. So those are the kind of those are the opportunities there. They're also, because the sport has got grown exponentially, which means there are far more roles now in the game. And if you do want to go into it professionally, not just as a player, there are data analysts, there are event managing, there are all kinds of different areas now, marketing. There are far more roles in sport than there ever were, and certainly in cricket. So the trying to keep it sustainable in terms of how we manage the costs of it. So initially we did get some funding to run it, and we ran it for 2 years like that. But we quickly realized that if we were going to do that, we were going to then spend most of our time running around looking for funding instead of concentrating on actually making the program as good as it could be. So we looked at other ways of how we did this. And what did strike us was that, again, we're within community clubs. The only way they survive is through fundraising, whether it's, running a bar or a food offer, or having, putting on social events, etc., etc. It's all done in order to fundraise to cover that gap between what people pay in subscriptions and the amounts that are needed to maintain the buildings, prepare the wickets, pay the coaches, etc. So really, we looked at ways that we could bring something positive to that. So we thought about, well, what we'll do is we'll offer the program with a subscription, and we'll try and keep that initial joining fee as low as we possibly could, and then the young people could fundraise the rest of it. But what we were keen, and this is important, is that they do it as part of a wider cause. So cricket, again, as a sport, has a really good record in and you've seen it, the pink for Ruth days, the red for Ruth days, and the pink days that they run in Australia for Glenn McGrath's wife, who sadly died of cancer as well. And it's so it has a really good and well-established, if you like, role in fundraising. So we were keen that this was done as part of a wider cause, a cause of the young person's choice. So that could be the club for a project that they might be looking to get funded, but it can be for any other cause. And the idea is they would fundraise the money, give us the first 70 of that, and then the rest of it goes towards their cause. It also gives a lot of life skills embedded in that. So certainly in terms of things like putting on a project, working together as a group, coming up with ideas. There's a lot of creativity here, a lot of communication, and then actually delivering it. So then you've got the event management, you've got the getting the role that you play on the day to get. Mostly what tends to happen is that it's run as a club day, or they'll work with a club to run a club day, and then make this part of that, or it's taking on all kinds of different activities. I'll show you some of the things that have been done over the years, but that additional funding that we've raised, and this is only the money we know about, where we're told about it, has over those 16 years, it's sort of around the £80,000 mark. So we've made a difference. Well, I'm not saying we, the young leaders have made a big difference to the wider charitable kind of environment out there, and that's important, because I think it shows cricket has a wider role to play in society than just being a sport. So there's some ideas from last year that from those two young girls there who raised money for a girls' charity in Kenya. They clearly had some connection to it, but they ran a bat-a-thon where they batted for however many hours in the nets, rotating it, which is quite a good idea. To that young lad there who grew all his own vegetables and made gingerbread cakes and various things that he sold at the club. To taking on personal challenges, to running bingo nights. So lots of different ideas, but the key thing in all this was they worked as a group, came together and came up with the idea, and then put it into practice. And that's what we give you on the how to fundraise workshop. So the ways that you can do it, and the tactics for doing it, and what are the right ways to be able to engage with both your fellow fundraisers, but also the people that you're asking for funding from. So in terms of the expectations, and this is on both sides, so it's what we expect and what you would expect of us. So from us, what we promise is that we'll make it as enjoyable as we can, and certainly we want you to get the maximum out of the experience of taking on something that's very self-fulfilling for you, in that you're going to gain a whole lot of new skills, hopefully gain the confidence, to be able to deliver them. And then, doing things like the fundraising, but also contributing more widely to your community. And we asked you to give us back 20 hours of volunteering during the course of the program. So, and that's, as long as it's cricket related, that can be all kinds of things. Your club will be briefed that you're on the program. So the idea is that they would offer you volunteering hours. If not, go and talk to them, because they will have them for sure. They need coaches, support coaches on Sunday mornings. They need people to help match manage junior matches. People score any range of activities. And so we asked you to do your fundraising, and then clearly we asked for the commitment to the program. And what we do is we ask you to sign a pledge, which we put together for. It's a three-way thing, and the idea is it's a little bit of support for the young person. So ask the parents to sign it, the young person, and whoever's providing the volunteering hours, so that the young person can feel there's someone who's got their back, their parent or guardian who's going to get them to the courses and maybe give them a bit of encouragement and a bit of motivation during the life of the course. Yeah, it just means they're not kind of on their own, if you like. And in terms of how the sort of summary to getting onto it, well, the Enthuse meetings now, I'm doing that with you. Then sign the pledge, which is on the website, and then you'll sign onto the account. Sorry, there's a slide missing here that's just suddenly dropped out. Essentially, we tell you we run the program using Spond as our communications platform. So you'll sign up through Spond, and then we'll make sure that you get all the notifications for the events. That's where you'll go and find them, and book onto the events, and communicate with us via the app. And similarly, we'll communicate with you. Then really it's sort of going and starting the program. The online stuff starts now, and we've already delivered one session, but it'll carry on till May, so you'll have lots of opportunities to run evenings, sort of 6:30 to 7 timings. Yeah, and it runs pretty much. There'll be a different module each week, so you'll have plenty of time to catch up with them, hopefully at a date you could pick out. The last thing is, if you as a parent would like to take on a role as a coordinator at your club, and this is not asking for anything other than just being a point of contact for us and for the young volunteers, the young leaders. Just so there is that point of contact, it just helps. So if you do want to do that, just drop me an email, and then we can set you up as an administrator on the group, just so that you've got the visibility who's on it, and then manage it. It makes our life and their life a lot easier. Okay, so that's kind of it. I'll sort of leave you with these comments. To read them yourself, but the gist of them is, the enjoyment that the young person got from the program, and the skills that they learned from them. The one that I really like is where they talk about, from the start of a call like this to the end when they got their certificates. Each one of the modules has got a certificate. The change, the difference that the parents saw in the young person, because they'd gained that ability then, to start communicating a bit more effectively, and put on, in that particular case, was putting on a big event at the club to do the fundraising. So that's it, really. If you want to fire any questions at me now, please do. I'm happy to answer them. I can do it on the chat or unmute you if I can. And yeah, if you want to ask any more questions, please do. I'll